Welcome, everybody. It's 10 a.m. and at some point Mr. Elliott will get around to giving me an introduction. But hey, in the meantime, I'm Merrin. I work for the Bureau of Meteorology. Can everybody just type into the chat window as to whether you can hear me at the moment? Welcome to an actual sunny morning in Melbourne. Oh, Shane's just unmuted himself.
Yes, I was going to say, welcome, this is Merrin from the Bureau of Meteorology.
Or the Met Service, as I know it in New Zealand, or the Met Office in England.
Yeah, that's right.
What's it called? I wonder. We'll have to ask Fred. Fred, I've just unmuted you. What's your Bureau of Meteorology called over in Canada? Earth to Fred. He's got off to get a cup of coffee. It's probably late over there.
And Fred's also jumping between sessions as well, so yeah. I will do. I'll just officially welcome you back, Merrin, for this session, and say thank you on behalf of the whole iMoot team for giving up your time and presenting today. And I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. As I said, this is our second session on accessibility to give you an introduction. So this session is actually based for beginners and the curious. I did have a nice welcome slide. However, we will say welcome. I'll stick the webcam on. Here we go. I don't know whether I can actually get you to the outside. There we go. You can't quite see the weather outside in Melbourne. I'm in the lovely Docklands area. In at work on a Saturday. How glorious. Shane's just having a dig at the weather, which is what he often does when he comes over here and works with us. Okay, accessibility. Let's get on to it. My welcome slide 1, a bit of import. So we're going to start with slide 2. They say never to start presentation with a graph or anything, but I've actually got to do a disclaimer. Because I work for the federal government, we just got to be careful legally here that these are my comments. So welcome along. Learning outcomes for today. We've got a few of them. I'll let you read through them yourselves. And whilst you are, I'll tell you a little bit about the competition we've got running. Accessibility is a huge issue. It's huge from the fact of it's just so much to get your head around. Therefore, we're going to run a competition and it's based on your to-do list. So there will be things in this session today that you'll feel, ooh, I should follow up on. I should look at this later. I need to look at my side. I need to talk to my manager about this. So have a pad, pencil, everything ready because there's going to be a database activity to go in and win iMoot loot. So we'll get you to submit your to-do list of what you need to do. This is a very common Creative Commons image. So can everybody just have a go at typing in what you think these icons actually represent? What sort of disabilities or accessibility issues are we looking at here? Yes, Christine, for the blind. So that's that one there. Aged children, the aged, families, deaf, blindness. Well, okay, we've got heaps here. I think we've got can't read. Exactly. Is there anything here? This is a very common, as I said, set of icons, free to download, so use them in your sites, not a problem. Is there anything here that's not covered that you think should actually be here? One of my ones was whether we should actually include people who don't have great access to the internet. Yes, Christina, people who can't use the mouse, so we're thinking about adaptive technologies for special needs. Lack of internet can also be one. Anything else? Yes, dyslexia. We had a lovely lady in the first session who works for a legal firm, and she mentioned that there's a whole range, and she's given us a website as well, a whole range of issues for people with mental disorders. for accessibility on the internet. So I'm going to just put up, actually I put it up in the chat window. If you scroll up to the start of this, I'm just going to copy and paste it. We're going to cover so much today that we're not going to get into the nitty gritty. I'm going to give you like a menu, and then you can organize what you want, do your take homes, your takeaways from it. On this site that I've given you, there are a heap of links, probably about 20 or 30 different links. Now these links are great because they are really good, valuable sites. I tried to cull them, but each of them does address something to do with accessibility. So it's best to put everything in. Okay, first activity. I'm going to stick in a YouTube website address, and what I'd really love you to do is to just listen for 2 minutes. Bring this up in your browser. As I said in the schema for this thing, that this is going to be hands-on. I'm going to be asking you to do activities. You won't just be sitting and listening to me today. I want to do that to you. This is about frustration and about how we really just want things to work. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to go off and listen to this. If you can just type into the chat box when you've finished watching it, that'd be great. I can't run it through Big Blue Button. You'd be able to see it, but you wouldn't be able to hear it. Okay, we've got 3 minutes of silence. Okay, has everybody finished having a look at that video? I find it's just a really good reminder to sort of shock me into the frustration that people go through. I know it's the weekend, I know it's your Saturday, and you've given it up to come along. If you're looking for a good movie tonight, I can definitely recommend. It's family friendly and it's an amazing movie. It just happens to be the story of an Olympic snowboarder who got injured and has to make his way back. It's not depressing. It is incredibly inspirational, and I definitely recommend that you all watch it. So what are we going to do about it? Shane had put into the comments that he actually watched somebody trying to use Moodle. He was in a wheelchair, could only use voice commands to browse. Most people are trying at least to get to the A level. Now, the government, or internationally, there's this thing called WCAG, set of guidelines. There's 3 levels inside of it, an A, a double A, and a triple A. To make it really short, like a 10-second example, if you were trying to meet level A, you'd try to put keyboard access onto your menu systems. Now, that doesn't cover everything in A, but that's an example of it. An example of double A would be using your mouse scroll with your control key because you're using a workaround using technology. Triple A, sign language on videos, captions on videos. Double A would have scripts for videos. So it's 3 sets of levels. Now here in Australia, we have to meet, the government has to meet by November this year, very stringent standards. At the present moment, the commercial companies don't have to. However, we'll see later that we've got a few little problems coming up. When I say problems, it's great for people with disabilities, but there is a warning that now in Australia, if your site is not compliant, you can be sued. Underpinning this new legislation, the Australian Discrimination Act, is the United Nations Act, which pretty much guarantees that if someone does take you to task, because there is that underpinning UN law, you really don't have a leg to stand on. So people very much need to be careful at the moment. I don't want to scare anyone, but at least make reasonable attempts. One of the easiest ways you can do that is to bring down this little widget. This little widget is available from Vision Australia. Now, if everybody could just go in and have a look at Vision Australia, I want to take you through, rather than just giving you the immediate download link, I want you to remember how to get there, because Vision Australia has a heap of resources that are fabulous to use. So if you're on the Vision Australia website, which I hope you all are now, at the top menu, go to Business and Professionals and down into Digital Access. I'm going to try and share my screen with you. Can everybody see this? I think there seems to be a bit of a lag on it. Not yet. Okay, it's saying the screen sharing is working. About now? If not, we'll only give it 10 seconds. If it doesn't, another 10 seconds. If it doesn't work, we'll just go through it ourselves. Christina, have you got it now? It takes longer to get to New Zealand. Okay. If everybody can at least follow just the words then. If you can go to visionaustralia.org. I'm going to turn off the... Have the website open, Christina. Brilliant. Okay, top menu. Go to Business and Professionals, down into Digital Access. This is one of the main resources that you're going to find. Now, down on the right-hand side, there is what's called the Color Contrast Analyzer. When you download this, it's version 2.2 at the moment, little widget, it's just going to be so useful for you. They will ask you to put in your email address. Don't worry, I've never had any spam from them, so that's fine. Oh, my screen has arrived. Okay, so you're all on the download page. Can you see me starting up the little widget? I've got it here for you. So probably your first take home would be to download the Color Contrast Analyzer for your competition. And can you see I'm just picking up a little eyedropper? So I'm selecting, because contrast is so important between your foregrounds and your backgrounds. Now this applies to your themes, this applies to your content as well. If you pick up and say, I want to check this color blue or this color red against the white background, we've already got it there. It says, okay, if it is small text, that would fail. Now it's going to fail because of color blindness, because it's red. If it was large text, as in how it is at the moment on this Y, it would pass. Christina's saying you can also use WebAIM. The reason why I use stuff from Vision Australia is simply because in Australia, because it's so huge to bring in this legislation, we have something called the National Transitional Strategy, which is a bunch of guys setting the way this is all going to be rolled out, both to government and to the corporates. Vision Australia is one of the main people on their board. So what we tend to see and get from them seems to be what's coming in the future, which means we get a heads up. When we're still on colours, if you have a look, we need to know about Safe Colours. Second take home for you is definitely a little company out of the US, not big, but they put out brilliant resources. If you want to bring up visibone.com, then you will find that they've got charts, fold-out mapping books of what colours you cannot use versus what colours you can use. Very, very handy. Something that's brand new, hot off the shelf at the moment, is Google Maps have now got accessibility built in. Okay, I've put the link to this on the website. If possible, rather than using, and I don't want to bag another company, but if you have a choice between using something like Where Is or Google Maps, simply for the accessibility, please, they've now got keyboard access going for it. Okay, I'm going to have one geek slide. I hope you don't mind, guys. Okay, pretty much HTML5, CSS, JavaScript, we can give it a big tick as far as accessibility goes. Flash, as we know, is no longer supported and is gone. Bootstrap we're going to talk about in a few minutes because there's some cool ways you can do things. PDFs currently technically do not comply. However, the recommendation to the Australian National Strategy is that PDFs will be fine. On that course number 21, again, you have a take-home which took hours and hours and hours to put together from about 3 different courses and an awful lot of testing. It's quite a big manual for those of you who are using Microsoft products, and it will tell you how to make your Microsoft PowerPoint, Excels, and Words accessible. It's got lots of screenshots in it, which is why it's probably about 30 or 40 pages long, and we use Adobe XI Pro. Why? Because this teacher and student edition is very reasonably priced. It puts a toolbar into your Microsoft Office products, and literally then with one click, you can make it accessible. Very, very handy tool. And please download that book because it really does. It really is comprehensive. Okay, we've done a bit on colors, but let's look at images. If I was to look at this image here, a screen reader itself would actually read out whatever the alt tag was, which could be porn for the top one and porn for the second one. As we can see, these are completely different things because one is a chess piece and one I censored. I've just put up the XXX rated. So how do we get around this? Meaningful alt tags, meaningful title tags. A screen reader will read out your alt tag and it will say image and then whatever you have put in. Can everyone just put into the chat window, what would you put as your alt tag for this image here? I've seen some people use students. I actually took this off somebody who used students, which was kind of scary. Christina is saying 4 students looking at a tablet screen. Almost, Christina. Almost nailed it there. Well, when we sent it off for a consultancy on this and many other things to actually get an idea of what was meaningful alt tags, it came back with 4 students in a park looking at a mobile device. Now, the reason why we shouldn't use tablet is because tablet has other connotations. Yes, we all know that a tablet screen is going to be a mobile device. However, it can be a little bit confusing. Yes, there is a consultancy service for alt tags. There is a consultancy service for pretty much anything to do with accessibility. The reason why I've mentioned Vision Australia a fair bit is that's who we have been using. Non-profit, they're the guys who train our guide dogs here in Australia, so we also feel good that if we're paying any money that we can, we're helping. We're helping a non-profit organisation. Yes, in summer, says Christina. So you could have a very long alt tag. The thing we tell our trainers is, say it out loud. Always say your alt tag out loud every time you put in an image, because 9 times out of 10, you end up changing it. I know it sounds crazy, but it really does work. The title tag. People get very confused. I don't know what it is. They get confused between alt tags and title tags. Title tags are tags that come up in the little window, little comment when you hover over your image. They should still be meaningful. However, they should also add to the image if possible. So if someone has a title tag, it shouldn't just be, again, for students in a park in summer looking at a mobile device. It should be for students now trialing or on the test of our mobile device implementation. And that was something I really didn't know, that title tags should actually be extra information. This one always cracks me up because there is no right answer. But I will ask it anyway. If you were going to be using one of these 3 buttons, which one is the least compliant and which one would be most likely to be the most compliant for accessibility? As I said, there is no perfect answer here. They all have pros and cons. If you're not sure, have a look at this, the first one here. The text is quite small and it is text embedded onto a button. Christina is right, this one is the least compliant. A, because it is a text on a button and the text is small, and if we put the image compose, the color contrast analyzer over the top of it, it fails. If we take this one here in the middle, it is partially compliant. It is text over an image. That is now an absolute big no-no. However, you can make it compliant. One, by having at least 18 points, pixel size on your text. So that is an 18 point. Secondly, if you are going to do this, you must, to be compliant, have text underneath it saying generate. You must give a text alternative. Third one down here was done with bootstrap buttons. Looks like an image. It's not an image. It's actually text. But it looks boring, doesn't it? Completely boring. We don't have to make it boring though. Now, what I've given you is a link on that page number 21 to the Pukunui demo site. And it has all the bootstrap ideas. I'm just copying it for you right now. And here you're going to use classes to make some much prettier buttons. Now, this was basically aimed at teachers, and a lot of the trainers or teachers or lecturers, whatever you call them in your environment, don't want to play around with CSS. They don't want to play around with HTML. But this can bring in some new cool features, and we are taking the time to upskill our guys. Yes, they're teachers. Yes, they have assignments to mark, but they're also learning a little bit of the back end because there's so much new functionality. So check out that website later. It's not necessarily to go there now because I've copied and pasted for you. And here you can see on the iMoot iMoot homepage itself, you've actually got one of these buttons. It's a good way to try to get some compliance going. Those for who are interested, the Essential and Elegance theme, that beautiful bright blue that Julian uses, is not compliant. So what I did was, I spoke about BusyBone, that site that does posters and charts. I'm just going to turn on my webcam again for a moment. Can't zoom it in, but you'll see up there on my whiteboard in my office that I keep one of those posters. These posters are like $14. All I did was I went and searched for really bright blue that was web safe, and then started playing around in the color contrast analyzer until I got one that was compliant. So if you're a theme designer, if you're even doing headings in your content, it's something you need to think about. We also need to think about how we write our hyperlinks. Big no-no number one is please don't put the name of the site as the hyperlink itself. It's redundant because it's there and the screen reader will just read it out twice. Current news is closer. Current news in capital letters, no hyperlinks in capital letters. Just remember when you're doing emails, you don't do capitals because it's shouting. Similar for this, but the big problem with screen readers is it will, or a lot of them will actually read this current news in capitals as C, U, R. It will spell it out. Now, if you're on a screen reader on a site, there's so many words, and the last thing you want is something being spelled out. Another no-no is click this link for pukunui.com. Not because pukunui.com doesn't deserve to be clicked on, it's just the fact that take out click this link. Insurance for 50 to 55-year-olds. The correct way to do it is to have the to-word, T-O, in between the two numbers. Only because you're going to confuse it with the dash here. Not great for screen readers. If you're doing the download hyperlinks, it is recommended that you do them this way as in the table in this presentation. So you're actually doing little icons that will show up PDF, and you then use your alt tags. It's quick and easy for people who can see. It's very easy and good for screen readers. Just remember, as I said, to put the alt tag onto the picture links. Videos. Now, as I said today, we're going through a menu here. There is an awful lot to cover. Videos is your next take home. We've all seen the captions, but a lot of people still get confused between the open captions and the closed captions. Basically, open captions are burnt into your video. It makes it very difficult if you need to edit your video later. It makes it very difficult, and even Martin Dugiamas has said people who are trying to learn and there are open captions on them and they don't need those open captions, that their retention rate of the material goes really down. Closed captions are the ones like you see on YouTube that you can turn on, turn off. So we made an institution-wide call that we were going to go with closed captions to give people the opportunity, because if you're not going to retain it because you're distracted, it's a bit like if you're watching one of those dodgy pirate movies, not that I do, of course, and you've got the different language down the bottom. It does distract you. We have done a lot of work on captions here at work. YouTube captions, they will try and choose what your words could possibly be. Great. Only problem with that is it works about 80% of the time and you can end up with some really random stuff. And it depends what your material is about. We do a lot of scientific work here. Therefore, we have a lot of acronyms. We have a lot of really long scientific names that YouTube captions often can't cope with. For less than $100, you can pick up some software out of from a lovely guy in the US called Movie Captioner. Movie Captioner, and I've got the link to his Synchromedia site. Yes, Christine, YouTube is good at synchronizing text. We'll get to that in a sec. Movie Captioner, very good software, can export your scripts out for you, can put it out in 1,000,001 different formats for you. Very quick and easy to learn. Amazingly good resource there. I'd say have a play with both and then choose which one you want. But what you want to do is you want to end up, if possible, with an MP4 format. Why? Remember we had those icons in the beginning? One of the things is also, how about making things multi-platform? We deal here with Windows PCs, Linux, and Mac. We use Handbrake, although there are a million and one others. There's VLC, a heap of other ones you can use to convert our videos through to an MP4 format. But we need to make sure that it is accessible, that anyone can watch it. Moving on from videos, how many of you actually design themes here or play with themes? Excellent. Okay. So this is important, and I was really happy when Julian, in his essential theme, brought out the availability for normal people who are not code heads, that they could go through and choose different colors. Remember how I was saying before how that pretty blue, as you'll see down the bottom here, which is pretty standard in Essential and Elegance, isn't compliant. Well, you can get around that in a way, because now if you ask your admin to turn on a setting, you can actually use a URL and just a normal hyperlink and change your theme, which means you can add it to your menu system. And that's all I've done here at the top of our site. We can either choose normal funky colors or you can choose the accessible theme. Now, do any of you have an accessible theme option at the moment for your sites, for people who maybe need it? Christine, it is a great idea. It's a great idea for a number of ways. That if we really, a lot of, how can I put this? Imagine if you had a trainer giving a course and it's got the same amount of information in it as the next trainer. They're going to deliver it in two different ways. You don't, by having templates to my mind, or by forcing them to only use certain colors, you are stifling their creativity. You are pigeonholing them and forcing them down a way. If they want to be fun and funky, let them be fun and funky. It's their personality shining through in their learning. Now, if you go, all of you, if you want to see the gurus on accessibility, it pretty much has to be this website. Because not only do they have links to their own theme, this is not a Moodle site, but I'm going to show you a Moodle site in a minute. It's the BBC in the UK. Not only do they have accessible theme options, they also have a guide to help people through. Now, I love this guide because it's simple and it's clear. If you click on one of those buttons, at the moment, you'll see that each one, we're struggling with all of this at the moment, says Christine. We removed the ability to change font color and now we have staff upset at removing color disadvantages other learners. Absolutely correct, Christine. So therefore, by having a separate theme for accessibility, you're going to get around that. You can give the people back what they want. I'd also say, please, make sure you've got a policy on accessibility. If you don't have one, even amongst your own trainers, I've given you a guide back on course 21 on the iMoot site of how to get started to write one. And please put in a guide for your users, just like that bbc.co.uk/accessibility. It will not only help your trainers to remember things, but it will help your users. And this is what the big change is, I suppose. We all design our courses our own way. Is there a plain English guide? I have a link on number 21 to a fabulous law site in New South Wales. And remember I was talking before about reaching people with intellectual disabilities? They very nicely show the difference. I'm just getting that link for you now. And there it is, with a plain English example. There we go. I'm glad you think so, Christine. Okay, so by designing early, and this is something we really had to change the way trainers thought and our people who coding. Here we're a little bit different. Our trainers are the coders. We don't have the luxury of instructional designers. If I did, I would be putting it in, but at the moment all I can do is put it into the project plans. Trying to retrofit is very, very expensive. And a lot of times it's much easier to recreate things from scratch than what it is to go back and retrofit for accessibility. So we don't even try to now. It's just honed into people to do it. Recently we have great meetups here in Melbourne, and one of them is the Be Responsive meetup for doing responsive design. And that was something else that came up. Remember those 9 icons? We've sort of added on to that, lack of internet. We've added on to that, plain English. The next one I'd add on to it is the testing for the mobile devices and being responsive, only using responsive design themes so that you're not disadvantaging, is that a word? Yes, it is, the people who might be on different devices. But it's not only about devices, it's about testing for accessibility. When we do our first prototypes, we have to start and put in a first accessibility test then to make sure in the QA process that things are being followed early, because if you have to retrofit, as I said, it's expensive and time consuming. One of the easiest ways to be able to test, okay, this one is for the visually impaired, but here is a link to 10 free screen readers. Now, problem with screen readers is they're not all made equal. There are guidelines for software for screen readers. However, a lot of the companies don't stick to them. Therefore, a bit like this here, which was in a company where they literally test on all different devices, download quite a few screen readers. Yes, it takes time, but yes, you'll be compliant. Now, I hope your to-do lists are coming along here of things you need to have a little check-up for entering our competition, because you can win a gym bag, an iMoot gym bag at the moment. One of the great things, though, which is coming up, for those of you who don't already have it, but iMoot site is actually running Moodle 2.7. Go in and play with the new editor. The new editor is driving me nuts in many ways. I'm finding I'm having to do a lot of coding, which probably people don't want to hear. But what it does have is 2 great new buttons. So you can do a quick test for accessibility. Now, where this is fabulous is the trainers, the course creators can do this themselves. It forces them pretty much to stick to putting in proper headings, using heading paragraphs, etc. There's no excuse, oh, I didn't know, or I've got to go use another tool for that. This is really good, and I got quite a shock when I put some of our trainers' courses in. Christina here. I'm missing the ability to use proper headings instead of just making things bold. That's a big accessibility no-no, unless I'm missing the heading button. I hate to tell you, Christina, I think possibly you are missing the heading button, because it should be in the drop-down. If you click here or in here, I'm still getting all of my headings, so I'm not sure why you're not. So if you want to contact me through the iMoot site, we can go through it together later on. Mine are definitely all still in there. I have an awful lot of issues with other things in the new Atto text editor, but that's okay. I'm sure it's probably me being a doofus. And that's it. We have covered everything from videos to hyperlinks to buttons to theming to ways you can test. But what I'd really like you to do now, if you get the chance, is to go and check out the main course and to have a look. Watch the movie Crash Reel if you do get a chance. It's really amazing and it will stay with you for weeks, I guarantee it. And enter the competition. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, the one thing I didn't mean, we've got Christina here. Christina, do you want to give us putting you on the spot here? If I open up your mic, I know it's a Saturday and you're at home. Are you able, or could you possibly talk just even for 1 minute? Because apparently Mahara's got some accessibility stuff coming up, and I don't want to comment on it when I've got the guru here, because I know you mentioned it in your talk the other day, and I thought, oh, I must rewatch that to see exactly what I got lost, I must admit, what it is about that's coming up new for accessibility.
Sure, Merrin. I think my mic should still be working because I had my presentation earlier on open beta, so hopefully the technology still plays nicely. And actually, we've already released our accessibility updates in mid-April for Mahara 1.9. And so we are pretty much compliant on the user side of things. There are only a few places in the administration area that need adjustments in order to reach the WCAG level 2A. And just give me a second and please put the link into the chat where we have our accessibility page on the Mahara Wiki. I'm afraid we haven't updated it yet to reflect what we've already done, but it does give links to the guidelines that we looked at and how they compare to WCAG, because you've got at least the Europeans, the New Zealand guidelines, the States, which are currently in revision actually, and then Australia. And so we try to give at least an overview of some of the legislations that we are aware of so that people can really translate it into their personal circumstances as well. And one of our goals for Mahara is definitely to keep working on accessibility, and also when we implement new features that they are accessible from the get-go. And so there are a number of things that we've implemented, and it's really amazing, Merrin, as you said, it's oftentimes not that difficult. And we thought we would have heaps and heaps of things to do, but just small changes actually make things already accessible, so that tabs, for example, can also be accessed by screen readers or by people using just the keyboard and so on. So if you want to trial out Mahara 1.9, you can just go to our demo site and give it a go there, take it through a screen reader and see what you can do. But of course, that only goes for the software itself and not for the content that people create. So everyone still needs to do their own part there.
Thank you, Christine. I think that's a very important point, that we can do the structure through the theming, etc. However, it is up to people to do the content. I'll put that link onto the course number 21 with all the other links. The only other thing I wanted to show you at the moment, I'm just looking for UK Met Office. Here's an example of a Moodle site. I'm not allowed to actually let you into it. Here's a Moodle site done up. They've done accessibility across their entire site. I kind of like the idea of having two themes, but yeah, there's one for you to all look at. Still engaging, yet it meets the color contrasts, etc., as well as being able to get around, navigate around it. Does anybody have any questions? I mean, I know I've thrown a lot of you. Yes, Christine, of course you can ask a question.
Hi, Merrin, can you hear me?
I certainly can. Welcome.
Thank you. That's been great. It's terrific information. And look, as I said, it's something we've been really struggling with ourselves. And I'm at TAFE Riverina, and we're looking at trying to bring our sites up to being compliant. But we've had a lot of discussions with teachers who are saying, well, you know, if a student comes into my classroom with a disability, I then make changes. So why in my lockdown Moodle site do I now have to be compliant when I don't have students in my course site that don't have accessibility issues? So I'm wondering where I go and get, or you know, is that the case? If the site's locked down and they're only allowed in with given permission and enrolment keys, does it still have to be compliant? I guess what their question is. And where I point them to information.
Yes.
Yeah.
The answer to that is yes. We deal with forecasters, so you would expect that if you're going to be a forecaster, their screens are very, very intricate. So you would have to have fabulous vision, and as part even of their job stats, you have to have fabulous vision. Their job specs, I should say, not stats. There is well, hang on. There's 3 sites, which I'm just trying to copy for you, on that number 21. If you bring up course 21 and go down to where the links are, there's 3 sites that you need to pull out and have ready to come back to them as the answer. The web guide to accessibility is the nitty-gritty. The national transition strategy is how it all has to come in. But what is the important one in this case is the Disability Discrimination Act. And remember I mentioned that beforehand? Basically, you have to be compliant because of underneath is the Human Rights Act. Therefore, you basically cannot win if someone took you to task. We went through this. You have to at least make a reasonable attempt at the moment. If you're not a government site, by making a reasonable attempt, you will cover off most things. Now, a reasonable attempt from the trainers can be they're using headings. They're putting alt tags on. So what we did was we built it into our QA process. Our QA does not look at the content itself. It only looks at structure. So it looks at, are they using headings? Have they got alt and title tags on them? If they're putting in a video, yes, they must put the script up. But through trial and error, our trainers have also learned if I'm going to create a video, it's quicker to write the script first. Does that help you in any way, Christine?
Yeah, I think what we're really struggling with is the retrofitting. You know, going forward we know what to do, but it's that retrofitting, and I can see some teachers having fits because of the work it puts on them to retrofit it.
That's right, because you've got to retrofit everything back to 2010. If it's still live, if your course is hidden, you don't have to. It's anything from 2010 onwards, which for us is an awful lot of stuff because that's when we brought in Moodle.
Yeah, same with us. And I just don't think we have the manpower to do it, but we'll have to.
Unfortunately, yes. And you've got to think about, is it cheaper to get somebody in to actually do all those scripts? If you go to websites like Fiverr.com and Elance, if you've got the capabilities. Now, Fiverr.com, for those who don't use it, gosh, you should be using it because let's face it, not all of us have fabulous budgets. Okay, Fiverr.com, I always get the spelling wrong, which is why, there we go, I'm putting it in for you because it's weird spelling. If you've got no budget, this is your friend. Not only do I get videos and animations made here because it's just cheaper, you can also get writing and translations done. So if it's something that's not sensitive, you can send it off and say, give me a script for this. And it costs $5. Brilliant. I'm working with people out of Ethiopia. I'm working with a lovely lady called Charlotte who does great animations in America. Charlotte from Charlottesville in America. It wasn't worth it to have our trainers who are being paid good money when I could get a whole heap done. And you can pay by PayPal, and if your corporation, I've actually paid for some of the stuff myself, and if your corporation will not let you have a PayPal account as such, you can still put things on credit card up to a limit of $2,000, which gets you around before you have to have the PayPal account. So places like that, Elance, elance.com is another fabulous resource where you can get people who will just sit there who might be medical transcriptionists, but they don't care what they're doing, what they're typing out. They're brilliantly fast typists, and you can get your scripts up very, very quickly. To do your captions can take an awful lot of time and a bit more management, because simply you can outsource it, but it takes a lot of time to check that it's right. Yes, freelancer.com, Christine, that's brilliant. Now, Elance has just set up a big thing in Melbourne, and they've called themselves Isobar, which Shane will find amusing, because I was going to register isobar.com because our external site for our training is actually called Isobar. And we thought, oh, no one's going to use it except for a Met person. And Elance is now renaming to Isobar. Never mind. Any other little things anybody want to throw at me? I'm not the guru on this, but I may be able to at least tell you how we're working around things. More quiet on the typing. That'd be something that'd be great if Big Blue Button wanted to put in something new. It would actually be like when you're on your iPhone, you see the little dots coming up that they are typing. Christine, may need to contact you at some point for more info. Not a problem. Shane always knows how to contact me, or just get me at merrin@mail.com. Apart from that, I've really tried to give you comprehensive resources on that course number 21. Bat signal. Okay. Can everybody, you should have a take-home list of things that at least interested you. Please enter in our competition. The link to the competition is there. And show us what you need to do at your site. Just do a screen capture. Have a look at some things. And I'm going to have to get off because I've been given the bat signal. Thank you very much, everybody. If there's nothing else, adieu.
Sorry, Merrin, you can keep going. The bat signal was how to contact you, not to wrap you up.
Okay, I was thinking bat signal, get out of here. It's time to evacuate. Bring in the troops, the next lot. How to contact me, merrin@mail.com is the easiest. Or just send me a message with your email through this iMoot site. And Christina, I may be in touch with you as well. Enjoy Wellington. Bye.